Tula Portokalos is back with her entire family, and this time they're headed to Greece to complete her father's dying wish. But when they get there, not only do they make some friends, they meet an unexpected familiar face. It's My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3. My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, written and directed by Vardalos, starring Vardalos, John Corbett, Louis Mandylor, Elena Kampouris, Lainie Kazan, Andrea Martin, Gia Carides, and Joey Fatone. It's just me again. By myself. Okay, so once again, summer's over, so the movies are starting to get a lot slower, and I come to you with not only another second sequel, but also another movie that is set in a foreign country. Okay, so for those of you that don't know about the My Big Fat Greek Wedding franchise, it is a story of Tula Portokalos, played by Vardalos, who essentially is telling the story of how she met and married a non-Greek man who was then introduced to her entire family. And it kind of goes through all of kind of the cultural bits of being Greek, specifically of being a Greek immigrant in the United States, what that actually looks like, what they actually go through, and how they relate to each other as a family. Actually, and it's not so much of what they go through, it's really how they just relate to each other and outsiders as their family. The first one came out in 2002, the second one came out in 2016, and the third one came out this year, 2023. That is important to note because I watched the first one not long after it came out. I watched it at some point in college. I graduated in 2002, so I watched it at some point in college, and I remember watching it, and at the time, it being very much a movie of the late 90s, a romantic comedy specifically of the late 90s. You know, they do a lot of piano in those. There's a lot of, oh no, something went wrong. Is this actually going to work out? Like, just a very classic romantic comedy. And coming from the era that it comes from, being produced by Playtone, which is Tom Hanks's company, and Rita Wilson's, for it to come out of their company, I expected it to be kind of exactly what it was. I watched it again recently. It was pretty much what I remembered. You know, sometimes the jokes were, you watch a movie from the late 90s, early 2000s, and 2023, and you're like, ooh, they are, yeah, some of these jokes are very misogynistic, a little patriarchal, but the movie has grown up with the times. And it's funny because Vardalos has written all three of them, but you can tell that, like, I can tell that she had more and more control as the movies kind of went forward, because the first one is kind of just cookie cutter, like I said, romantic comedy from the 90s. The second one comes out in 2016. There's a little bit more agency in it, especially for women. There's more messaging about being strong women, about what that looks like to be a strong woman. And it even questions the idea of marriage in a way that you would not expect it to. So now we get to 2023, and I am just walking out of this film, and I will say it's unusual to me that this movie was in a theater and not streaming. It's not that it's bad, because I'll say the same thing that I said last week, which is even when nothing much is going on and the plot is a little bit thin, I'm still looking at the beautiful seaside villages in Greece. You know what I mean? So it almost like I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, man, between it, the Italian coast and the Greek coast, I got to get over there and see what they talk about over there. You know, like it's beautiful. And the characters, on the other hand, it's not that they're not good, but they've all kind of become caricatures of what they were in the first film. They've all just, whatever characteristic that they had that identified them in the first film, they've taken that and they've dialed it up to 100. And they did that in the second movie. They've certainly done it in this movie, which kind of makes the movie feel less, just very unserious. However, again, it's still set in a beautiful countryside, and when it does hit the emotional beats, I mean, there's times I got goosebumps in this movie. There was times when you could tell it's leading up to a certain place, and the whole and again, the whole plot behind this movie is that they are traveling to Greece because Gus Portokalis has died, and it's Michael Constantine actually died. The actor who played Gus actually died in 2021. So they're actually going to Greece to accomplish his dying wish, a mission that he wanted them to accomplish in Greece. So a portion of the family all goes to Greece, and hilarity ensues. There's a lot of jokes. There's a lot of, and the audience I saw it with, I could tell there were a lot of Greek people there, both either from them just talking about being Greek while we were sitting in the theater, or from the ways in which they were laughing at references, specifically Greek references that I knew I didn't get. And the only reason why that sounds familiar to me is it was kind of like watching Black Panther and laughing at the very black parts of that movie and other people not realizing that something is happening here that is cultural that everyone else may not understand. So those parts of it made it very fun, and the emotional beats made it very good, but it's hard to score this movie too high because it doesn't have much plot. There's not much going on. It's very paper thin, and sometimes it just felt like vignettes happening on screen. Which is why I think if it were a streaming film, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. But that being said, I did still enjoy it. I don't think this movie can go lower than 3 stars. With all of that being said, I think it's a 3.25 star movie. There wasn't as much going on as was going on in Equalizer 3. But again, this is a second sequel. And for them to be doing what they're doing in a second sequel is pretty impressive. They're on a trip. They're still nailing the emotional beats. There were still laugh out loud lines. And in general, I had a good time. I would have had a better time on the couch, but in general, I had a pretty good time. So 3.25. If you like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the franchise, you will like this movie. For those who are not into the franchise, you might feel indifferent about this movie, but I also don't think that you're going to go to the theater to watch this because it's a very specific second sequel. And for those who weren't following along the whole time, or if you're not Greek, I don't think that they're necessarily marketing towards you. But if you like it and you were into it the whole time, you're going to enjoy this one too. So, with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh It's Big Round Studios. Alexandra Ketch of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Alex. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about My Big Fat Greek Wedding 3, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at Oh It's Big Round. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Round Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Round Studios and on Twitter at Oh It's Big Round Stu. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening.